Welcome to the Collector's Maze interview series. I'm Tim Abrams. Today I'm here with Terrance Thompson. He's a cosplayer. He also does stuff here for Collector's Maze. He's a Bugle reporter, so you'll see him on some of our videos and everything like that. Terrance, how you doing today, man?
Doing well. Thank you very much for asking.
Yeah, no problem. Well, I think the best place for us to start is just with a brief history of your background in cosplay and how you got started.
Oh boy, let's see. Where do I start? I guess it really started from my first job. Back when I was 18, eons ago. My first job was actually, first official job getting a paycheck was actually being Spider-Man for a Marvel character company. You know, like making appearances at public zoos, the mall, things like that. Some of the elementary school appearances also. So I got used to wearing spandex that way. And then a friend of mine said, well, hey, we do charity appearances and things like that, like with Toys for Tots and whatnot. And would you be willing to come out as Spider-Man? And I was like, well, I can't use their costume. So I put one together myself and did it. And I was like, I can do this for free. And it kind of grew from there. I'm a graphic designer on the side. So it gives me a chance to use those abilities also, the designing costumes, making pieces, a lot of 3D printing nowadays. So yeah, I guess that's pretty much how I got started. That's the short of it.
Yeah, and you can kind of tell, so all those suits behind you made, right? Everything behind you, or?
Thing about them, like this one wasn't originally done by me, but I added a lot of the details and a lot of things to it. But the base suit was made by someone else.
Okay, so do you think, so can you kind of describe your style then? I know that a lot of cosplayers have a certain style they try to stick with or anything like that. Do you have a certain style, or do you kind of just do what feels good?
Well, I guess when you say style, are you meaning preferences?
Yeah.
Like superheroes versus gaming or something like that?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, well, superheroes mostly. Some from TV, some from comics, depending on the versions, that is. Yeah, mostly stick with superheroes. I was a really big comic fan as a child. Still am. I'm sure you can see that. Yeah, mostly comic book stuff. Sometimes I might veer off to something else, sci-fi, but mostly comic book stuff.
So would you say that, and this is the most heated question I guess you would ever answer, is do you prefer Marvel over DC? I know behind you have all Marvel, so.
But I got DC right here.
Yeah, you're rocking it.
It's funny you asked that question. There's so much debate between which one is better, which one does better TV programming, which one does better in films, yada, yada, yada. But I've always liked both. I mean, there's pros and cons to both. I'm looking forward to some things that DC is bringing to the table. Actually, today was a DC fandom, their online thing with panels and whatnot. They got some surprises coming up and some redos, if you want to call it that. But yeah, starting back when I was a kid, I read DC and Marvel pretty much the same. The cartoons that were out back then were mostly Spider-Man cartoons or X-Men. And then there was the Super Friends. Yeah, I wouldn't say that. I can't choose one over one, like, oh, Marvel's way better than DC or DC's way better than Marvel. It would become more of a specific question, like, well, who makes the best cartoon you've seen recently or something like that? I can answer something like that,
Right. Well, that is, I guess, the correct answer always, right? I'm the same way. I love Marvel, but there's some designs and some things in comic books by DC that just awesome, just rock my world. So I'm with you. I can't choose.
I know. Coming up, I felt like if you look at stories, a lot of the writing. I'm thinking about the '80s right now. A lot of the stories that I really enjoyed back then were the DC stories as far as the way it was told, but for some reason, the Marvel ones were a little bit more fun, kind of like the films right now too. But I think that's what happened with me. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally understand that. And so, as a, and you mentioned you're a graphic designer as well. Do you think that really helps out your cosplay initiatives and like helping put detail on suits and everything like that?
Oh yeah, because I can sometimes I'll model my own 3D pieces and just have them printed out, and yeah, it helps a lot. I
Man, we
like to
live in
draw,
the future.
so that helps me too with the painting that happens, and things like that. Yeah, it helps a lot.
Well, it's awesome to hear that you use a 3D printer. Like I don't know too many people that actually have one. So to hear that you're using it for cosplay is freaking awesome. I mean, how many people could say that?
I have a few friends that do it, but I have a lot of friends that are a lot more talented than I am, hands-on, and they'll do things with their hands that I do on a computer. You know, with the with clay and making molds and things like that to make an actual, like I say, a Batman cowl, for instance. Wow, I could model one on a computer. Yeah.
I'm the same way. I can't. I mean, even drawing for me, it's not very good. So I have to stick to more of a, I'm a video editor, so I stick to that kind of side of things and everything like that. Um, so to change gears here a little bit, I know you work for several nonprofits, and you talked about it a little bit, how you would go to like elementary schools and things like that. Can you tell me some of the ones you are a part of and what you kind of do with them?
Sure. Um, just a couple weeks ago, right now during this pandemic, we did an event with a group called Miracle Babies, and I did that through Kids Can Cosplay, which is one of the nonprofits I'm with. And what we did was the families were lined up in their cars, did a drive-through, and we were giving away free diapers. Um, and then thinking about another group I'm with, the Vintage Initiative. Sounds funny to say it out loud, but we did a panel called Cosplay, Cause play, for Comic-Con virtually this year. We actually usually have one at most of the big conventions. So it's a little different to do it virtually, but that's what we're doing right now.
Right. And so what kind of experiences do you have when COVID-19 is not happening? I know that right now everything's kind of in flux, but like before, what was it kind of like?
Well, it would be great. It was kind of the same feeling I got when I was a kid. If I saw Spider-Man, um, the kids, their faces light up. Depending on their situation, we're hoping that we're bringing some sunshine, into their day, whether it's a hospital visit or maybe even a fundraiser for some underprivileged families. I didn't realize it was going to be as rewarding as it is, and I love it. I've been doing it now for over 20 years as a cosplayer, and I'll keep doing it. No matter what kind of day I'm having, just to see that kid, having a great time seeing, me as Spider-Man or maybe Green Lantern and a couple of friend as Captain America or Batman. It's great. It's fun for us too because we're nerds, we're geeks, but at the same time, being able to bring that to the children is priceless.
Right. And just seeing kind of how their faces light up. I know I talked to a couple other cosplayers and they say that's the whole reason they do all of this is that's kind of what you're saying. And, for one thing, that's awesome, man. That's like a great thing for you to give back to kids that are basically just like you.
Yeah, I remember what that felt like.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you mentioned that you've been doing this for kind of 20 years. So can you tell me a little bit about how the differences are from when you first started doing something like this and how it is now?
Oh, the cosplay world, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, when I started, we didn't call it cosplay. It took me a while to get used to saying that. we just called it costuming, or, you know, hey, you're going to the sci-fi convention or to Star Trek convention, you know, we didn't call it cosplay in our community. So that was a big change. Maybe it was around when the first time I started, maybe a little over 10 years ago, started calling it that. And I was so hesitant. I did not want to call it cosplay. A lot of us were like, no, it's costuming. The Japanese call theirs cosplay, but here it is, it's cosplay here in America as well. It's changed a lot because when I started, yeah, continuing to date myself here. Back when MySpace was the popular social media to use, we were still pretty much anonymous. Like, people didn't use their real names. A lot of times, if they had a photo as a profile pic, it wasn't of them. It was of them as the character. But you could remain anonymous. And I think with the explosion with Facebook, as a popularity of us came out, if you will. Yes. So that took some getting used to. With people chasing you down or asking you, can you make them this or make them that? While before it was only the small community knew who everyone was and what they did. And another thing is, it wasn't cool started, and now it seems to be one of the things that people consider as cool. One of the cool things, part of our pop culture. Now it's like if you go to a convention and you're not dressed up, people is like, oh, come on, man, you got to wear something. But I remember before, if you were dressed up, they look at you kind of funny, but they're like, oh, all right. They're really, really big fans, but I can dig it. And then some of the friends, the way they change, like now friends that will ask me things about conventions or things related that never would have asked me that. It's a big change, I think, and it's continuing to grow. Not all positive though. Some of it, with anything, something starts to get. But I'm not gonna.
Right. I totally understand that. And it's like that in any kind of creative process. There could always be one or two people spoiling things and, making it rougher for everybody else. But how is kind of this online, I don't want to say phenomenon, but that's kind of what it's become. Right. Like, so how has that kind of changed the game a little bit? Even if are your designs have to be bigger and more grandier now than they had to be, back in the day, or?
Oh, because of all the online presence, you mean?
Yeah.
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I think one of the positive things that this change has brought on, though, is so many more creative people are now in the hobby. Now you have there's a lot of engineers who make these amazing Iron Man armors and things like that, where things actually move and function. You never would have saw that 20 years ago.
Right. Yeah. Well, just the technology too. I know exactly what you're talking about. And some of those suits are kind of crazy. So you talked a little bit about, doing stuff for nonprofits during COVID-19. Obviously this time is rough for everybody, but especially you guys, where you can't go out and talk to people, you can't go to conventions. Can you tell me about more situations that you've been in that kind of you can still use cosplaying to help people out or still do charity things?
Sure, yeah. Right now we do what's called virtual visitations, which actually has allowed us to see more children in places that we wouldn't have seen them before. Like especially the ones that can't leave the home, or the ones that are in some kind of special care unit where you can't visit them. Now they can have a virtual visit from us. So we do that. Also, a lot of us will read storybooks and record a video and post those YouTube or with whatever group that we're with. That's another thing that's grown a lot. I've seen a lot of videos out there. There's a lot of cosplayers are doing that right now. that has definitely changed things. I think it's something we'll probably continue doing even once we can be around people more frequently. I think we'll still do the virtual stuff because it's just opened up our eyes to things that we could have already been doing.
Yeah.
I just did it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you're good. Keep going.
I'm gonna say I just did a Spider-Man story time that I posted to a few of the groups, and I did a virtual visit as Black Panther a few weeks ago for a family that wouldn't have been able to leave the house anyway. So that was kind of cool. That was kind of cool.
So yeah, and I was just thinking that too, is that if there is anything positive to come out of all of this, it's that now you guys know how to reach other people, and other people are really going to reach out to you guys to do more virtual. Do you think that's going to be like something that could really help out kids in the future?
I think so. That's like I mentioned before, especially ones who are staying in a special care unit where they can't normally have visitations and whatnot. The nurses will bring in an iPad or something like that, if you will, and they can have a visit with us, or they can watch the video that we might have made for them ahead of time. I think it's great. I think it's one of the positive things that come out of all of this.
Yeah, if there were any, right?
Yeah.
So, you talked about there being the community of cosplayers and things like that. Can you talk about how it feels to kind of work with other cosplayers? And I don't know if you do any group cosplaying, but can you kind of talk about what it's like working with other people?
Sure. A lot of times it's exciting because now, not just seeing them online, I can actually see their work in person. I can learn from them, or vice versa. We can collaborate on a future project. Actually, I'm doing that right now with someone. I love to meet cosplayers I haven't met in person before, and I hope, especially to see their work, I can share mine. We can go back and forth, with our ideas. That's actually the main thing I like about going to conventions, is just catching up with old friends, which we haven't been able to do, at least not in person. There's, like, let's say for Dragon Con, for instance, I'm a West Coast person, but I still would go out there for Dragon Con and see those friends that I only see there. And I love it.
Yeah, and like you said, the community now is so much bigger and it's so much more mainstream. Do you feel like there's a lot of people reaching out to you to kind of collaborate, or they're reaching out to ask you how you did something a certain way or anything like that?
Some do, but I don't promote very heavily as far as for my personal cosplay. I think I've gotten more into doing the charity type things more than anything.
Yeah.
But occasionally that does. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's awesome that you have all these, ways to collaborate with people and help out, and as well as, just meeting up with people. I'm sure it means the world to everybody when you get together in a group of, because I've never experienced it. My experience in cosplay is dressing up as Hawkeye for the Avengers premiere, the original Avengers premiere, 2012 or whatever. But I never got to go to a con or anything like that. So I imagine just going and being around a bunch of people is a really awesome experience.
It is. It's like, oh, I found my tribe.
Exactly. Yeah.
They're my here.
So I kind of want to cross over a little bit into another area. You talk about how you do virtual visits and things like that now. And of course, when you're at convention, you probably want to play the character a little bit as well. Can you talk about what you do to kind of get into the mindset of a certain character?
Well, let's see. Things that I've done. Sometimes I'll watch a few scenes if it's a character from a movie or something. I'll watch a few scenes, get into what, the way they move their head when they speak, or the cadence of their voice. Or I might even just listen to the music, a soundtrack. Sometimes that's what we do. I know a lot of people have told me that's what they do too. Like they'll be in their car driving to an event and they'll put on the soundtrack for something of a character that they're going to be to kind of get into it. This brings this a side note. You didn't ask me about what I'm about to say, but I got to share it. Occasionally I might do something like birthday parties for children and other kids events. And being an adult, sometimes you have to get those explicit words out of your system before you get there. So sometimes when I'm driving along, you know, I'm yelling profanity in the car. No one else can hear me. I'm just yelling it just to get it out of my system so nothing slips out. I'm at the birthday party with the kid. And I heard I'm not the only one who does that either. Someone else told me they do that as well. So I thought that was funny. I thought I was the only one, but I guess I'm not the only weird one.
You're definitely not. I mean, so I do a lot of interviews kind of like this for my day job as well. And we do the same thing as an interviewer to prepare. You go into a room somewhere or you're in your car and you just kind of let it out. So that way you don't have to think about it later. Right. And so is speaking more on like being a character and anything like that. Is there certain characters that you look for, certain characteristics that some characters have that you think when you see that you go, oh, okay, maybe I could be this character or, you know, anything like that? Is there anything you look for?
Usually I have to have some kind of feel some kind of connection with the character if I'm going to dress up as that character for myself. That being said, with going along with other groups, if they needed a specific character for their group, I might join as a character just to fulfill that need, but not necessarily because I was into it so much myself. Yeah, let's say like with I keep saying Spider-Man, but he was one of my favorites, you know, as a child. So maybe it's because he was a teenager. I don't know, but connected with him first. The fact that he was the guy who didn't have everything, you know, he was broke. You know, he had regular guy problems. So I kind of was sucked into him. But thinking about, let's say, Captain America, I have military experience myself and that same sense of duty. So I kind of connected with him on that level.
Yeah, I mean, and I totally relate to a little bit of that because Spider-Man, I think the whole reason he's so popular is because he's a normal person and he's a teenager. He still has to get to school. You know, he still has to, now in the comics, he's more adult. He has to get to work and things like that. I think that that humanizing trait is why he's such a good character. And a lot of the Marvel characters kind of emulate that a little bit as well. I don't know. I definitely am a Marvel fan. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm definitely on the Marvel side of things. So, so I want to kind of switch over now to. Oh, sorry. Keep going.
I was just going to say that I used to always feel that Marvel stories were a little bit more realistic, at least the way that they, like face things, or even their character development. Their characters didn't feel like they were overpowered, which is what a lot of people say about the DC characters. But I still got a place for both of them in my heart here.
Yeah, I totally feel
sorry,
that.
You were saying you about.
Oh, sorry, say again. So we're having a little bit of lag problem, a little bit. So sorry about that. But
I would just say you're up to your about.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, I kind of want to change over questioning just a little bit here because I don't know if it's my internet or yours. So I don't want to try my internet or yours any more than we are right now. But you do interviewing for Collector's Maze. Could you talk about how it is talking to other people like I'm talking to you right now? How is it interviewing other cosplayers or graphic designers or whatever?
So far it's pretty much like this. I just have a conversation with them and just ask them a few things that I'm interested in and just let them go ahead and explain.
Hey, that's the best way to do it, man. Like I said, I do this for a living and It's better to always have someone else explain everything. um, so uh, a little bit of looking ahead there to the future, or even some of your past experiences. What advice could you give to somebody that's looking to either get into cosplay or they're looking to boost up their game a little bit?
Uh, um, if it's something they want to get into, I say research, research, research. And I'm referring to the, the type of venues that allow cosplay, the things you can do with cosplay, and also the ways to make different cosplay or costumes. There's so much content out there now where you don't have to make it up all on your own. You can watch someone else's tutorial and say, "Oh, that's how you would do that," you know. So I would say do some research and like really look around, ask questions, and try to have an open mind because you never know, you know, what you're going to run into, especially if it's something new. For a lot of people, they experienced, I guess I can call it stage fright the first time they're in public in a costume and it's not Halloween, and they're like say at a convention and there's like thousands of people around and people are stopping to take your picture, and it kind of makes you feel like a celebrity because sometimes you're stalled in one spot for 20 to 30 minutes. You can't even take a step because people keep coming up and want to take your picture. That can be really heavy on someone who has anxiety issues and things like that. So that's why I say they should definitely do their research.
Right. And that experience, it almost makes you feel like a celebrity, doesn't it? You can't walk 5 feet without pictures or anything like that.
Yeah. Sometimes it's real bad, depending on what convention you're at, how big it is, and what's popular that year.
So I think since we're on the topic of conventions again, I thought earlier, so what are your do's and don'ts at conventions during a normal convention year? Because right now it's not normal.
Right. Do's and don'ts. Do find out the convention schedule. You know, if there's anything you want to see besides going there in your costume. But nothing's easy to get into as far as wait times or fees for a photograph with a celebrity or listening on a panel, if you will. Another do is to make sure you drink plenty of water the night before if you're planning on dressing up, because once you're in costume, you may not get that opportunity to eat, you know, anytime soon. Bring snacks on the floor with you. Those are all do's. A don't would be, well, first thing that comes to mind is don't grab somebody you don't know, because a lot of that used to happen. You know, let's say there's a girl dressed as Wonder Woman. And she's really into being Wonder Woman, but she's by herself. She shouldn't have to worry about somebody who wants to take a picture with her, just grabbing her, and they don't even know her. I mean, just because she's in the costume doesn't mean that she is okay with being grabbed. That's a big don't. And that goes for us guys too. I got some stories, but I won't get into them right now.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't expect you to. But the only thing I want to add on that or ask you about that is, do you think it's gotten better since cosplaying has become more mainstream?
As far as behaviors and things like that
Yeah.
with cosplayers, or yeah, I think so. It's gotten better because it's more public, more people pay attention. More people are in groups. There's so many cosplay groups now. Before it would be more like an online forum where we would all gather to talk and say, oh, convention we're going to meet at. But now it's like all over Facebook, all over, you know, whatever you're doing, all over YouTube, all over Instagram. I think so. It's definitely better now. The TV reality shows have come and gone.
Oh man. Well, I'm glad to hear that it's better now, because I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, I'm a video editor, but I also go out and shoot video. And sometimes, you know, you don't just go up and record a cosplayer, especially if they're a girl. You kind of ask them first, you know. And I know people back in the day who wouldn't, and I always thought that was weird because, you know, you guys are dressing up. It's your art. and us recording you and things like that, it's always like a gray area of like, yeah, I want to record and show the convention, but I really should ask you about your art and everything about that. So I'm glad that it's changed over the years.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot better. There's still those iffy moments, but it's a lot better now.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, and I'm really glad that you came and talked to us today. We're getting close to the end of my list of questions that I had and everything. Is there anything you wanted to talk about, anything you wanted to get off your chest or anything like that?
You know, I hadn't prepared anything.
And that's totally
I'm just
fine.
thinking about fandom. I'm looking forward to Disney's Plus release of Mulan. I'm wondering if they're going to do the same thing with Black Widow. I mean, I guess maybe it's going to weigh on the success of that. And then there's, do you watch any of the WB?
I haven't in a while, but I do know, I'm familiar with them.
Like there's, I know there's one, a Stargirl. I still haven't watched it. I guess I should get back my nerd card, my geek card. I haven't even started it.
Oh man, don't worry about that. I'm so behind in all of them. You can keep your card. I'll give them mine.
No, I guess that.
Yeah. So the last thing I want to ask you, it's the most important question in my opinion. So where can people find you? You know, what's your Facebook name and everything like that, that they could follow you?
Oh, okay. They could find me at Amazing T Cosplay. When we had to make up cosplay names, that was the one of my friends gave me, so I kept it. Amazing T Cosplay on Facebook, Amazing T Cosplay on Instagram. Pretty much anywhere you can find me under that.
Awesome. Well, thank you, man. I really appreciate you coming by and talking to us. I can't wait to see more of the interviews you're going to do with us at Collector's Maze, and anything else that you might do. And I really appreciate you stopping by.
Hey, thanks for having me.